Good evening, Janta. This is Bhukya Shashikumar.
And this is Katyayani Khola.
We are student members at Student Welfare Group, and we welcome you all to the most informative event of our tenure, the Examania. It is an enlightening and inspiring event dedicated to helping you navigate through the exam season, as these are your first exams as a college student.
We are thrilled to have you here today as we embark on a mission to empower you with the knowledge and strategies that will pave the way for your academic journey.
Examania is not just an event, but a roadmap for your success. Today, we have assembled a panel of remarkable individuals who have successfully achieved a very good CGPA in their first year. They have walked on the same path as you and are here to share their valuable insights, experiences, and guidance.
So let us introduce you to our panelists. Our first panelist is Ayush Srivastav, who had achieved department change from agriculture and food engineering to electrical engineering.
Our second panelist is Pranjali Mane, who had achieved department change from the Department of Bioscience and Biotechnology
Hello, am I audible? Our second panelist is Pranjali Mane, who had achieved department change from Department of Bioscience and Biotechnology Engineering to Department of Mathematics. And our third panelist is Utkarsh Anand, who is from the Department of Electronics and Electrical Communication Engineering.
Our fourth panelist is Subhashish Som, who had achieved department change from Department of Mechanical Engineering to Department of Computer Science and Engineering.
Our fifth panelist is Saurendra Nandi, who had achieved department change from Chemical Engineering to Industrial and Systems Engineering.
Once again, I request all the panelists to kindly switch on their camera if any of the panelists didn't switch on the camera. From our side, we have gathered a bunch of questions which cover all the basic doubts that can arise in the mind of students to steer through their exams with much ease in their first year. We also take the questions from the audience at the end of the session.
Absolutely. Without further ado, let's dive right into the heart of our event and explore the invaluable insights that will be for your guiding to achieve your goals.
So grab your notepads, lean in, and get ready to absorb the wisdom as it's time to kickstart Examania.
So here is our first question. Can you explain how relative grading works? Is it better than absolute grading? And how difficult is it to get a good grade in this system? I would like the panelists to please start.
Hello, am I audible?
Yeah, you're audible.
So I can explain the difference between relative and absolute grading. So in the basic funda is that in relative grading, your grade will only depend on the uh, marks relative to others, and it does not depend on the marks itself. However, in absolute grading, the grade will only depend on the marks you get. For example, in IT here in IIT Kharagpur, we have courses in maths where the grading is absolute. So in order to get an EX grade, you have to score above typically above 90% to get the top grade. Otherwise, some tougher courses have relative grading. So even if you get like 70-75% marks, you will still get an EX grade because of how your peers have performed. Now, is it better than absolute grade? Is relative grading better than absolute grading? Actually, I think it is, because if the courses which had relative grading were absolute, then I don't think much more people would be able to get EX. And
Hello, am I
typically,
audible?
but I okay.
No, please continue.
Yes, you
I'll
can
add
add
up.
on,
I'll
add on
add
to.
then.
Yeah, you can add on.
So I wanted to say that for absolute grading subjects also, like if the performance of the batch is too low, sometimes the professor can decide to shift the EX grade and the A grade to some lower marks also. Like in our cases, the for the math subject, in both of the semesters, the EX grade went down to like maybe 87 or 88. Like it can even go down to 4 or 5 marks. So even if it is absolute, it can still go down like 2 or 3 marks. But yeah, it is absolute. Like it depends on your marks, not on the marks of others. So yeah, that's it.
Any other panelists would like to add in?
Hello,
Hello?
am I audible?
Yeah, you're audible.
Yeah, I would like to answer the part like how difficult is it to get a good grade in this system. I think be it relative grading or absolute grading, ultimately a student's efforts will give the results. And for me personally, I never cared whether it was relative or absolute. I always focused on, completing the assignments on time and like giving the best shot at the exam. And I feel like the more you think about the end result, the more you're not able to focus on the process. So I would suggest to all the freshers is that do not think a lot about how you're going to score in relative or absolute. Just clear your concepts very well and then you'll be good to go.
Would any of the other panelists would like to add something for the same question?
Panelists said, it is very important to not focus about whether you are getting a good grade or not. For example, after a question, do not get too disheartened. Do not overanalyze whether you will get a good grade, whether you will be able to get that EX. Instead, relax your mind and focus on the next exam. Spend your time on actually important things like studying rather than wasting the limited amount of time you have before exams on stuff like would I be able to get a good grade or not.
Thank you, panelists. I hope the audience are clear with this question. So let's move to the next question. How does the level of difficulty of questions that you solve to get into IIT compare with the level of difficulty of questions you get in exams at IIT?
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, yes, you are.
Yeah. So if we talk about the difficulty level, it completely varies according to the subjects. There are some subjects like English, environmental science, which are quite easy and only require you to know the theory behind it. There's not a lot of practical application. Subjects which actually require application of concepts are on the harder side. For example, you have programming and data structures, physics of waves, advanced calculus, and others like BEM and ET require both application and time-consuming calculations, which are quite easy to make mistakes in. The questions in these subjects are more or less easier than JEE advanced questions and require practice so that you feel comfortable with the concepts and also their applications. There's a very important distinction between JEE advanced questions and the questions you get at IITs though. Exams in IITs are often not MCQ based, but are subjective. And subjects like basic engineering, mechanics, advanced calculus, ET, POW, Chem have step marking. Thus, it becomes very important to properly write your solutions so that you can show the concepts you used and how you finally arrived at the final answer. A correct final answer, but no explanation, will often get much less marks than a step-by-step solution, which results in a wrong answer due to some calculation error.
Hello, am I audible?
Yeah, you're audible.
Yeah, so as my friend said, actually, there is not much comparison of the questions that are in IIT and that is in IIT. So basically, in during the JEE times, we often face questions like MCQ and like solving the questions of MCQ, we can make many types of you know one day like how to solve those. We can take help from options, how to get to the answer, and we can take help from other things. But in IITs, you have to there are all subjective questions, so you have to solve this. So basically, we can say that uh, agar comparing the difficulty level, IT, the midsems, ensems, they are basically easier. We are basically on the easier side. So, but yeah, as my friend said, you have to write everything in the questions in midsems and ensems because they are step markings. So, very descriptive and good answer often fetch very great marks.
So I hope audience are clear with the difficulty level of the questions. So let's move to the next question. How did you appropriately divide time between all the subjects according to their weightage?
Hello.
Yes, please answer the question.
Yeah, so definitely you should focus more on the subjects that are having more credits, like the 4 credit subjects, because they are extensive and they require much practice. But also, I would suggest that to divide more time for the subject that you are weak at, because personally, for me, in my first semester, I was quite weak at ET. So I spent most of my time doing ET, and then it proved fruitful towards the end. But also, I would suggest that there should be a balance between, dividing time for credits, like the subjects having more credits, and also the subjects that you are weak at.
Hello, am I audible?
Yeah, you're
Hello.
audible.
Yeah. So I completely agree with what she said, but I'd like to add that it completely depends on how you perceive the subjects and like how much good you are in those subjects. Like one thing I did was that if there was a lot of syllabus to cover, like I had backlogs from a particular subject or something like that, I would devote the complete day to mostly 2 or 3 subjects, not much more than that. And like it actually depends on how we distributed our timetable in JE time. Like most of the time, we feel that we naturally shift to our uh, studying mechanisms in daytime. So it completely depends on the person actually. There is no hard and fast rule like what we should follow and what we should do. It depends on our weaknesses and the strength in particular subject.
Any other panelists would like to add something else? If that's all, let's move on to the next question. How did you manage your time and allocate it properly to academic, society work, events, and assignments?
Well, during the preparation in JEE times, we have often devoted all our time in academics only. But now we are all in our college, so it is necessary to appropriately divide our times in academics, society, events, and all other stuffs. So basically, for these things, first we have to be better in time management. For example, we can use our time in between the classes to complete our assignments or to do some society works that are pending, or maybe to focus, or maybe if some events is going on, then we can join them or things like that. So the basic the basic suggestion that I would like to give to all the first years is to use the interstitial time, basically the time in between the thing, in between the two classes, you can say. Most of the people would maybe they waste these times on scrolling Insta or these things. So that might hamper your time management. So I'd like to suggest that to use those times very judiciously.
So
Hello?
would any other panelists would like to add this?
Yes,
Yeah,
I
one
completely
more
agree with
point.
Utkarsh here.
Go ahead.
But I would actually also like to answer that you should complete your assignments in time. Do not let it gather up to the end of the during the midsems or 1 week before the midsems. If you complete the assignment within 1 week or within 2 weeks, you will have to face much less load when the midsems arrive. And also be regular in completing your lab work, because lab work is also very important in fetching a good grade.
I
Yeah.
would like to add something.
Go ahead, Pranjali.
Yeah, like I've seen many students facing a FOMO in the campus, right? They see their friends doing something and like participating in some things, and then they feel like what they are doing that is not enough. But I would request everybody to kind of prioritize what you want in your college life. Like for me, I wanted to do well in my classes, and for that, even if I had to miss one or two events, that was okay for me. I've seen many of my friends who went to every place, every event, and then at the end, when the exams come, they faced a lot of problems, and then the exams became really overwhelming for them. So that should not be the case. There should be a subtle balance between, enjoyment and also paying attention towards academics. And related to assignments, I think the day the assignment comes, you should start, try to at least start solving on that day, because once you get an assignment done, trust me, there's a lot of burden off your head and you feel really light. So that is why keep your academics on track. And related to society works, I think society peers are good. Even if some of the work is not being done because you have some load, everybody will help you. But yes, you have to prioritize your, what you want in your life.
Yes, I would like to add a point. I completely agree with Pranjali. I want to add that keep a priority list of tasks that is completely unique to you. For example, health over family, over academics, over your society, over your extracurricular activities, and finally your fun time. And whenever you have a limited amount of time and two contradicting, clashing tasks, pick the task with the higher priority. Do not go back on your own priority order, because these are subtle things you learn as you spend time in college, and this is one of the most important aspects of time management. And also, I would like to add that I generally, whenever I got the tutorial, I tried to complete it by the end of the week because many of the subjects require application of concepts and require a lot of practice. You will not be able to get that practice in just 2 or 3 days before the exams, and you will not be able to be comfortable with the equations even if you know them. So it's very important to practice the tutorials.
Yeah, I would like to completely agree with Shivashi that completing the tutorials is a very important thing. Like one way to judge that we are on track with our academics is like how much of the tutorials and all that you have completed. Like even if we cannot solve many questions from books and all that, the tutorials are actually a very good way to just know the topics and all that. And another thing is that to appropriately manage time in your academics, you need to focus on the subject. Like subjects like EVS and English, they can be done in 1 or 2 days. Like the syllabus is like that. But for subjects like ET and then it's not possible to do like within 3 or 4 days even. You need to give time like regularly over the whole semester. So yeah, the good way to do that is not letting the tutorials pile up.
Also, I
So,
have seen that there are few students who, start studying just a few days, like 2, 3 days before the exam, and still they manage to score well. And you might feel that, like, I can also do like that, but I would suggest not to do that experiment on yourself. You should understand that what pace you have while studying, and you should divide time according to your own schedule and not focus on others how much they are studying, because that will not be fruitful at the end.
so I hope the audience are clear with this question. So let us move on to the next question. What resources do you advise first years to study for individual subjects like POW, BEM, PDS, etc.? Are the class notes and tutorials enough to score decently?
Hello. So I would like to answer this. I think that one universal resource for all these tough subjects like POW, BEM, PDS is NEPTEL, NPTL. If you are able, if you miss a lecture and you are not able to understand properly, then you can refer NPTL for lectures. And if you want to go to the specifics, for example, POW is a subject in which the theory is quite difficult and you need a lot of practice. So for practice, you can go through Irido. The same Irido you used in your J is also being used here. Other than that, there are also assignments given by professors, and those are quite similar to the Irido questions. For BEM, I think that solving previous year questions and solving some questions from books like Merriam-Craig, Beer and Johnston were enough. For PDS, I actually do not recommend following any book. I recommend actually coding the questions and following websites like Geeks for Geeks, because these websites are quite good in increasing your aptitude in PDS. And for the question like, are class notes and tutorials enough to score decently? I think yes. I think if you are able to complete all the tutorials thoroughly and be able to revise your class notes a couple of times, then I think you can score a very good grade.
Hello. What he said is actually right. NPTEL is a really good source for revising and like letting knowing the subject. But another good YouTube channel that you can follow is that CSC 2020. There are many subjects where actually the CSC 2020 lectures are better than NPTEL because NPTEL usually delves quite deep in the subject and like many of the times that much depth is not needed. So CSC 2020 can help in those cases. And for them, yeah, DRN Johnston is a really good book that you can follow to score good. For them, the tutorials are actually not enough to score quite good. Like you can get the idea of how to do the problems and the mechanisms and all that, but practicing more from DRN Johnston and books like Marian Craig is actually important, and PYQs too. So yeah, and for POW, Saraswatan Sastri is also a really good book. Like personally, I actually stuck to Saraswatan Sastri. the whole semester. Irodov, I felt, was a bit of overkill, but Saraswatan Sastry, like, really to the point. The professors really stick to Saraswatan Sastry and they help.
Yeah, so I will like to add to that. Saurendra mentioned that previous year questions are very important. I'm sending the link of the past year question paper portal in the meeting chat. Please go through that. This is a very good resource. Like, it contains mid-sem and end-sem papers of the previous years. I personally practice from these a lot, and they really helped because subjects like BEM and POW and ET, they require practice. And even subjects like environmental science and biology, the PYQs get completely repeated. So subjects like biology, science of living system, and environmental science, do not forget to go through the PYQs. Now coming to the harder subjects, we have POW. Now, POW depends on the course instructor. For the POW course, which was taught in the spring semester of our batch, the professors completely followed Saraswatan Sastry, and there were no tutorials. The professors mentioned that we should solve problems from Irodov, and it was helpful because some of the classes had questions directly picked from Irodov, and for BEM, for BEM, it has already been covered. For chemistry, I would say that the physical chemistry tutorials are not very relevant. So try to practice from PYQs. And for inorganic, PYQs are very relevant. Many questions get repeated from PYQs. Uh, the inorganic tutorials have a little bit of theory. Go through that. The slides of inorganic are very, very important. Questions are directly from the slides. And for organic, the tutorials are again not very relevant, and PYQs are a better resource. Now, coming to PDS, the people who have decent coding experience during their school life do not face a lot of difficulty adjusting to PDS. But I guess the most important thing you have to get over in PDS is the syntax. And how can you get better at the syntax? By solving problems on your own. Like, go through the class slides first, and go through the class slides, and also go through the PDS quiz slides that are given by SWG. There are also good PYQs. And once you actually practice problems, especially PYQs, and your syntax knowledge gets improved, you will realize that PDS is more about logic. And more or less, everyone is pretty good at logic. And for PDS lab, you require extensive practice. And so before each lab, go through the previous year assignments. I try to code. You actually have to code because in PDS lab, even if you know the logic, coding might require you to take up a lot of time. And so you have to have good coding practice.
Thank you, panelists. So now our next question is how to prepare for days on which we have two exams, and how should the importance of a course be decided?
Um, like, to be very honest, in our first year, we did not have any days where we had two exams, but like the concept remains the same. We have to prepare for the two exams like well before because um, obviously the day on which we have two exams is going to be very hectic. Like for NSEM, it's actually like JE advanced only. So to prepare for that, we have to like complete the syllabus of at least one of the subject 2 or 3 days before. And another subject can be like you can do it 1 or 2 days before. At least that's what I think I'll do this semester. So yeah.
Anyone else would like to add in?
I would like to answer the part like how should the importance of a course be decided. I think we should like like put our attention equally in all the subjects based on how weak or good you are in that. And I don't think we are at a position where we can decide which is important or which is not. Every course has some importance. That is why it has been added to the curriculum, I feel. Since we are given this course, we have no other option than to study it rather than criticizing it. It's better if we start, studying it and do better at it.
Yes, I would like to add on to that. There are some very easy 2 or 3 credit subjects like English, Science of Living Systems, and EV. And if you stay up late and give enough time in memorizing the theory just before the exams and solve the PYQs, you will get a decent grade. Do not forget their importance, as with effort at crucial times, you can bag low effort credits. And such easy subjects you will not get in the future unless you take HSS breadth electives. So do not completely discard them saying they are boring or irrelevant.
Also, I have seen many of my counterparts, they do not like their extra academic activity course which is provided. But for me, I used to love going to my MCA vocal classes, and I felt like it was a kind of break for me from the regular like Monday to Friday classes. And I would like request everybody to see these EA classes as recreational activity rather than another subject which might burden you.
So I hope the audience are clear with this question. Let us move on to the next question. What proportion of the overall course grade is determined by the grades received in the lab work? And how crucial are these grades to achieve a final good score?
So
I would
all of
like
the
to ask.
labs, all of the labs in
Yeah.
here in the your first year would be of typically of 2 credits, with some like ED being of 3 credits. And typically in our case, it were divided in 60-40. So where 60% of your lab grades were your assignments and 40% were tests. For example, if I take the example of PDS, PDS had a 60% weightage on your assignments and 2 tests of 20% weightage. So you can clearly see that the assignments actually contribute to a very high amount of weightage. So you should always prepare for these assignments in advance if you can. And these are very crucial in achieving a final score. And the same can apply to ED if you have engineering drawing in your course. And the same applies to physics lab and chemistry lab, as these labs require a lot of effort.
Another point I'd like
Yes,
to add
I
is
would
that
suggest.
for PDS Lab, there is one peculiarity is that personally, um, I had done well in the class test one, but my class test two had gone really well. So I had thought my grade would come to be EH, but it actually came to BH. So when I contacted the TA, they had said that um, it says that both the class tests have same weightage actually, but internally, if there's a type like a tie or something, as it is relative, they give more preference to the class test one. So try to perform more like better in the class test one than the class test two. Like both are important, but class test one is more crucial, I guess.
Yes, I would like to add on that. For physics and chemistry lab, just study those lab books thoroughly. I would say that before every experiment, just read the experiment once, and that would be like more than enough every day. And for the ED lab, I would suggest to purchase the book ND Bhatt because I purchased it and it proved like really beneficial for me. Also, I've seen that many students face a skill issue because in ED lab you have to draw and many people are not good at it. But definitely, if your techniques are correct, if you know the concept of doing those questions, you will be given the marks. Also, in PDS Lab, just practice the past year lab questions that are available either on SWG app or questions from Geeks for Geeks, and just practice the topic before every lab because they will not only help you in lab but also in your theory course as well.
I completely agree with what she said about engineering drawing. Do not get disheartened if you think you cannot draw well and thus you will get very poor marks in engineering drawing. I never drew in my life, and after coming here, I got really scared that I have to actually draw stuff in this course. But eventually, I realized that more than that tidiness, more than that neatness in drawing, you require to properly, pay attention to the details, like some of the details, like making the actual drawing darker than your construction lines, ensuring that your arrows have 3:1 dimension. All of these are much more important. Ensuring the axes have the proper dash dot or dot dash. These are very, very important. And unsolicited advice, find one of the TAs who are actually competent and try to ask them to explain you how to do the problem. Because what happened in our case, like even the professor was unable to properly explain what to do during the assignments, and I found one of the TAs to be very competent, and he used to explain me how to do everything from the start to finish, and I benefited a lot from that.
One thing I would like to add
Like
is that
Shivasi said, so true.
uh, yeah, so one last thing I would like to add is that guys, you are in IIT Kharagpur and we have the greatest infrastructure in the lab works. So please enjoy your lab and give it your best.
So I hope the audience are clear with this question. Let us move on to the next question. What will be the weightage of class tests in the final CGPA? Can one improve their grade even if class test didn't go well?
I'd like to answer this question. The class tests usually do not have weightage more than 10, like in individual tests. It's mostly like 7.5 or 5 per test, and it's most usually like 2 tests per semester. And because the rest of the marks depends on the attendance and the professor actually. And to the second part of the question, I think I'm the best example. Like in my second semester for BEM, in my model test, I had very units wrong actually, and so because of some mistake, I have literally got a 1 out, like but it did not work out. Um, my mistakes also I got around 20 or 30, even in the mostly it was making like do that, do not be disheartened because this is all scope actually. In any semester, 10 semester, of the whole semester, and you can literally boost up your grade by 1 or 2 levels. Like I'm the so yeah.
Would any of the other panelists would like to answer this question?
Yes, I would like to add on to this. Generally, 30 marks are allocated for midsems, 50 for endsems, and the 20 marks are divided between class tests and attendance. Some courses have marks for attendance, generally like 2, 3, or 4. and some have 2 class tests, and some even have 3. Like for example, chemistry has 3 class tests for each of the 3 parts, and some even have no attendance marks. Midsems have much higher weightage, but you should prepare decently for class tests as you get some practice. Now, if your class tests are on Moodle, they are going to be hard as back navigation is not allowed there. And once you answer a question, you can't go back to change its answer or to even see the question. So give proper time, focus on accuracy, and while you're solving the question, ensure that your correct option has been marked. And if you think it is taking up too much time or you won't be able to solve it in spite of thinking enough, then just move on to the next question. You can't help it. Allocate time for each question, and if you have barely started the exam and one of the question takes too much time, and only then move, as you never know if you will be able to solve the rest or not.
Also, one small point I would like to add in the Moodle test, pay very close attention to the units because a higher percentage of the questions are fill in the blanks as compared to MCQs. And in the filling the blanks questions, the units are already given by the instructor. And sometimes the units are in like kilo or milli, but you are not writing those units. So there's a high chance to lose marks based on these silly mistakes. So pay very close attention to the units in the model tests.
Also, keep your answers with a little bit of decimal precision. Like if you have answered like 5.23, do not write 5. Uh, Give the decimal points also, because Moodle, the checking is completely computerized, and whatever range of answers they will set, that only will be like checked, and the others will be marked incorrect. So do not just give the whole numbers. Give the integer, give the decimal precision as well.
Thank you, panelists, for your guidance on this question. So let's move on to the next question. So, what are the consequences if one misses an exam, and what steps should they take to address the situation? Also, are the retests comparatively difficult?
So as far as I know, they actually have a compensation exam for mid-sems, but for end-sems, there is no such compensation. So the compensation will be only given if you have a legitimate medical reason. Otherwise, you should if you miss an exam, the first thing you should do is to contact the professor or your instructor, and more importantly, your faculty advisor to address such matter. And as for the retests, comparatively difficult. Personally, I did not have to face such an issue, but one of my friends did, and as far as I know, the retests are more or less the same difficulty as your mid-sem or end-sem examinations.
Any other panelists would like to add on to that?
Yeah, I
So I
think.
hope,
Okay,
yeah,
go ahead.
please continue.
No, it's fine. Go ahead.
Okay, let's move to the next question. Since there is a very short time left, how can we manage time to study all the subjects for good grade?
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, you are audible. Carry on.
Yeah. Yeah. So less than a week is available for the mid-semester examinations. So what at this point of time we should focus on is mostly the subjects we are weak in, and the subjects that we haven't covered much or attended much class. So that's the main takeaway. But the thing is, before the exams which we are confident in, we should actually revise all the topics so as to not forget any of them. And for exams like EVS, Bio, and English, as already mentioned before, they are quite easy and can be done in one day or even one night. if you like really spend the whole night. But for subjects like PDS and all that, start solving the questions if you have not. And for BEM, PDS, BEM, POW, and ET, the same goes for them as well. So yeah, we should totally focus on all the weaknesses that we have.
Also, I would like to add that the less time to prepare, we can use the strategy of making short notes. Short notes are very important. The formulas, all the formulas, for example, there are many formulas in physics of waves. The formulas for the simple harmonic motion, damped harmonic motion, and those differential equation, and for also for chemistry formulas in thermodynamics. So for PDS, one can miss things like little syntax and those switch sentence and those kind of things. So it is better to make short notes for those things. Also, you can use little key notes and you can stick those things on your wall so that you can watch, when you go to sleep or when you wake up, you will watch all those things and they will just fit in your memory. So I'll suggest that you should make short notes and you can stick sticky notes to remember the things that you have to memorize.
Also, if you haven't made notes for any of the classes, since there is very short time that you can refer to one of your friends' notes, or even better, you can follow CSC 2020 notes. The notes in CSC 2020 are actually quite good and quite extensive, and they will help you in this short span of time to get a good grade.
Yeah, what Ayush is saying is actually so true. CSC 2020 notes are really good if you have not made any notes and need notes for studying. They are really, really good.
Any other panelists would like to add on to that? If no, let's move on to the next question. What are some of the common mistakes someone would make in the examinations?
Okay, I think I can answer this question. I believe the biggest mistake is not rechecking your answers. This is the biggest source of error in subjects like BEM, ET, linear algebra, complex analysis, and subjects that involve lots of calculations. So take your time and focus on accuracy. Next up, I believe I mentioned this point before also, but I want to readdress this point that once you have given an exam, understand that you can do nothing about the exam. If it has not gone according to how you planned it to go, then do not spend too much time brooding over it or getting frustrated. Relax your mind, move on, and focus on the things which are in your control because limited time is present for your next exam. So try to do better for your next exam. And I want to say that this is an IIT exam and it's okay even if you could not solve all the questions. This has happened to me many times. I got frustrated because even though I gave a lot of effort, it felt like it was all in vain. Eventually, I adopted a positive frame of mind, and even if the exam did not go well, I was glad I gave my best. And this brings me to my next point. Have a positive mindset and try to learn from your failures. Your goal during examinations should be to give your best effort, as the competition is with yourself, not others. Your JE phase has been over. You are no longer competing with batches for getting into a college. Every batchie will be going through a different journey. So compete with yourself and try to be the best version of yourself. Also, one important point is you should have a proper strategy for exams. For example, like BEM questions require you to first write down the equations properly, uh, draw free body diagrams, and solve them using calculator, and then write the final answer. If you do not have this strategy, you will write your solution in some different way, and professor will not give proper marks. And one more important point is reading the questions carefully. Do not skip the questions and understand the question fully before holding your pen to write the solution. Also, do not give up when there's still time left. The question might seem daunting and you might not be able to even understand how to start solving it. After solving the questions you could solve, try to revise the topics in your mind to check which topic the question might be from, and thinking if you can apply it in some way. Until the bell is rung, try your best. And after the bell is rung, do not think about the exam because you have nothing to do about it.
So I would like to add some trivial points is that um, be like very knowing of your calculator. Like in our JE phase, most of us did not use calculators and all. We mostly used to use our phone for calculator. So we should be very handy of our calculator, especially for ET exams. And one very trivial mistake that many of us do is that the degree and the radian thing. Be very careful of the degree and the radian thing while calculating the sums. Like it can be very disastrous if you do not make sure it is right or not. And another thing that Shivashi said is that reading of the questions. Um, Apart from reading of the questions, we should actually focus on the headlines also, like the upper portion. Like in ET exams and many other exams, many of the times it says answer only 5 of the 6 questions or something like that. We some of the times we mostly just jump into the questions because we think the time is very less. So don't usually do that and read everything that's on the question paper. Um, like it's for your own good. There will no regrets after the exam. So yeah, apart from that, everything comes from your experience from the previous exams and it's really not much different. Um, that's there only.
Am I audible?
Yeah, you're audible.
Yeah, I would like to add a point which is different from in the exam. I would suggest that please reach the venue at least 15 minutes before your examination time, and make sure you carry your ID card, your calculator, and also your admit card for the exam, because I've seen one of my friend forgetting the admit card at the end moment. So don't let that stop you from reaching the exam center. And also make sure you know what is your room number exactly, because Nalanda you might get lost very easily there. So keep an idea of where your exam room is.
Thank you, panelists. Now let's move on to the next question. So, if one doesn't know anything about a question, should they leave it unanswered, or is it better to attempt it even without limited knowledge?
Like, absolutely no, don't leave it unanswered at all, because here we do not have any negative marking. And even if you have read a little bit about that question, just start writing about it. And it's not like just keep blabbering anything that's irrelevant to it. Try to get to the solution as much as possible. And since there's step marking, you might as well end up with 1 or 2 marks in the question.
I want to add to that. Yeah, she mentioned how you can get marks even if you do not get the whole solution. This has happened to me before. Like in our power midterms, I could not completely solve the problem, but I did one single simplification step, and from that simplification step, I got 2 marks. So even if you don't know how to come to the exact solution, like do 2 or 3 steps which you feel is the logical way forward. And if you don't know how to even approach the solution, then revise the concepts in your brain from where the question might be from, and try to see if you can apply them. Like don't keep the answer completely blank.
Like another point is that if you feel that you know nothing about the question, it might be that the question is actually too difficult and the paper is too. So when this is the case, the professors are actually very lenient on checking the answers. And like anything, if at all anything is relevant to your answer, they give step marks, as Shivashi said. And another thing is that for life science, like bio course, there may be some of the subjective questions that you might find you know nothing about the thing what is being asked, but still like anything you find common, anything you can understand from this, just write it, because in that course the professors are actually super lenient. and give marks, because they also know nobody really knows bio, like most of us. So they are very lenient, and it's the case for maths also. Like that is why you should never leave an answer unanswered. Write anything like that you find relevant to it.
Yeah, one more point is that the question might be even wrong. Like in our PDS midterms, one of the questions was completely wrong, like it was controversial. And so those who attempted it got partial marks for it. So if you feel that the question is wrong, then just write what you feel is logically, what you feel will logically give you some marks at least.
Like if you think the question is actually wrong, you can write in some brackets like what you think is actually right. Because as Shivashi said, it happened with our course also in the spring semester. Like one PDS question was actually wrong, and the people who did something got the marks, but whoever left the question completely did not get the marks. So yeah, that's the deal with PDS sometimes.
Thank you to all the panelists for answering the questions. We are now done with the pre-acquired questions. So, Janta, if you have any other queries, you may ask. You may raise your hand and we'll unmute you. Ayush Shaha, you may unmute yourself. You may ask your query.
Hello.
Hello, yeah, you're audible.
Yes, I was wanting to ask that could you kindly tell me PDS Lab Marks Distribution? Like how much is it? We recently had a lab quiz, and for most of us, like the lab quiz went really bad. So like many of us are interested in knowing PDS Lab Mark Distribution.
So, hello, Ayush, can you hear me?
Yeah, you're audible, Ayush.
Yes.
So the actual distribution depends on your course infrastructure because things might have changed from your batch to our batch. But as for in our case, we had 20% each for both class tests in PDS lab, and also in PDS theory, it was like 10% and 10%. So there was no marks for PDS attendance in PDS. And in PDS lab, there were 40% for class tests and 60% for assessments. Things might have changed in your batch, so you should actually ask your professors.
Okay. Thank you.
Like it heavily depends on the instructor. Like for our case, the PDS theory, the class tests were not 10 marks even. It was even less, and some marks were for attendance and interaction with the teachers. So you should actually interact with the teachers and ask the TAs. If not the professors, ask the TA, which is who is mostly present at the back of the class. He can help you with all the distribution and all that, and let you know about that.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you,
Briguraj,
panelists.
Briguraj, you can unmute yourself and ask your question. Rakshit, carry on with your question.
Rakshit, you're not audible.
Hello, hello.
Yeah, you're audible.
Ma'am, what's the weightage of MCQs and Ma'am, what's the weightage of MCQs and numerical type questions in midsem? How much percentage there are?
Um, so actually there aren't any MCQs in midsems. In most of the cases, at least, there will be some MCQs in, say, your PDS, very few MCQs and some MCQs in science of living systems. But for the majority, there are no MCQs in midsems or endsems.
Environmental science also has some MCQs, and if you are lucky, you might even get MCQs in chemistry. And it
And
is
also
important to
chemistry level.
go through the. It is important to go through the MCQs for science of living system and EV because they are often repeated.
And for the chemistry lab also, quite a portion of the lab exam marks come from the MCQs, like mostly it's MCQs. And yeah, for the bio and EVS, MCQs are very important because they get literally repeated every single year. So you should really go through the massive articles.
Jatin, you can unmute yourself and ask the question.
Am I audible?
Yeah, you're audible.
One of our profs, like one of the panelists said that to go through the slides that are provided in PDS, but our profs actually told us to not go with them because they are not relevant for us. So what to do in that case?
If that's the case, then I think you should practice on GFG, because GFG have quite extensive articles on topics which are required. And moreover, you should in PDS focus on the syntax, and the logic will come naturally to you, because there is not a lot of algorithms, at least in the initial stages of PDS. At the end of your course, you will have some algorithms, but initially most of this is syntax and handling edge cases of the required code.
If you
And
go
I
through the
would suggest
PYQs, you
that
will
you,
see that a lot of questions are based on syntax. If you know how the code will work based on the syntax, you will be able to answer.
yeah, and I would suggest that you talk to your professor once regarding any other material that he thinks is relevant for your course, and then you can follow that as well.
I
Hello?
think the reason that you might have told us is because the slides actually are meant for only clearing your basics, the syntax, the basics, and all that. Apart from that, you have to build on top of that. So he might have said that the questions that come in the exam will not be like enough for the slides to cover. But you can go through them still to clear your basics. And then, of course, Geeks for Geeks and Code with Harry, there are many resources which you can go through to help ace the exam.
Okay,
Hello?
thank you, panelists. Acha.
Am I audible?
Yeah, you're audible.
Actually, I was asking that one of you had told about sharing the link of PYQs for best PYQ source available. So we are not able to get that link right now.
Yeah, you can check in the meeting chat. That link is available. I've pasted it. Open the meeting
Actually,
chat.
chats are shown disabled.
Okay. I guess I can read you out the website link. It is
Yeah, sure.
http
Yeah.
:// ten
Okay. Hmm.
dot 18
Yes.
dot 24
Okay.
dot 75
Yeah.
/PEQP.
/PEQP.
Yeah. check once if you can open the website. This website is only available if you use the institute Wi-Fi or institute LAN.
So there is actually
Okay,
an
and you are
alternate for this website. If you can also search IQPS IIT KGP. It is a website from Meta KGP. It is basically the same as this link that Shivasi is telling, but it can work on your mobile data as well as the institute Wi-Fi. Search IQPS. It is Intelligent Question Paper Search.
And guys,
can
we'll
you
share
are
all the
also
links.
telling about a channel of CSC.
It's a website. The website is CAC 2020.
Okay,
Like
So
okay.
it has YouTube
audience
lectures on YouTube also.
audience will be sharing a document with all the essence of the answers for the questions, and also will share the relevant links for resources. So don't worry about the links of the resources. So we hope that everyone present here is cleared with the answers of the questions that have been given by our panelists, and it must have shaped your thinking and vision. A very important thing is that all the discussions that have happened will help everyone to obtain a good CGPA in their first year. So coming to the end of the event, I would like to thank all the panelists for guiding the students, and we hope they also enjoyed the session once again. Thank you, panelists, for being us here today.
Thank you so much.
Also, a very heartfelt thanks to the audience who had attended this session, and we hope that you all must have taken something from here which will help you during your first year journey.
For more such academic related help, follow Student Welfare Group on all social media platforms, and also download SWG app for all your academic materials and PYQs.
So once again, thanks a lot everyone. It was a very nice session to interact with you all guys.
SWG is right there with you in your academics. Thank you guys.
Thank you for inviting us. And
Yeah,
huge
Thanks for
thank you
kudos
for
hosting
to
us.
inviting.
SWG for organizing these events. They are very helpful, even for us.
Thank you everyone. The session is officially over. You may leave the session. Thank you.